Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For centuries, we've been fed a specific narrative, a meticulously crafted timeline of human progress, particularly in science, often portraying a linear journey that seems to culminate solely in the intellectual giants of the European Enlightenment. But what if that story is, in fact, incomplete? What if the very foundations of revolutionary thought, ideas that would much later define classical physics and reshape our understanding of the universe, were actually laid hundreds of years earlier by a brilliant, audacious mind whose name has been, until now, almost entirely erased from our collective memory?
Prepare yourselves, because today, your fundamental understanding of scientific history is about to be rewritten. We are going to unearth the truly astonishing scientific insights of Abu al-Barakat al-Baghdadi, a colossal polymath who flourished during the incandescent brilliance of the Islamic Golden Age. His most profound ideas on the very nature of motion and causality remained inexplicably buried for centuries within the dense pages of a philosophical masterpiece, Kitab al-Mutabar, the book of what has been established by personal reflection. Our journey begins in the late 11th century, in the vibrant intellectual heart of the world, Baghdad. Abu al-Barakat Hibat Allah ibn Ali ibn Malka al-Baghdadi, as he was fully known, was no ordinary scholar. Born into a Jewish family, he thrived within the uniquely pluralistic and intellectually expansive environment of the Islamic Golden Age. This was a period unlike any other in history, where the pursuit of knowledge transcended all religious, ethnic, or geographical boundaries, fostering an unprecedented era of scientific and philosophical advancement. This wasn't merely an era of preservation, it was a period of intense critical engagement. The works of ancient Greek philosophers like Aristotle, Ptolemy, and Galen were not simply copied and stored, they were rigorously studied, challenged, and, most importantly, expanded upon by brilliant minds. It was within this vibrant, questioning crucible of intellectual inquiry that al-Baghdadi, a true polymath, immersed himself in a staggering array of disciplines. He was a master physician, often considered among the greatest clinical physicians of his time. He delved deep into philosophy, psychology, and logic, striving to understand the very fabric of existence and human thought. But it's his lesser-known, almost concealed contributions to physics that stand as truly breathtaking. These were insights so profound, so radical, they wouldn't be independently conceived again for another 5 centuries. This is not an exaggeration, it is a meticulously researched historical fact. The astounding part? His most truly astonishing advancements in physics were not published in a dedicated scientific treatise, as we might expect today. Instead, they lay discreetly woven into the dense philosophical fabric of his magnum opus, Kitab al-Mutabar. This was a work intended to challenge prevailing philosophical doctrines, yet it quietly contained the conceptual seeds of what we now widely attribute to Sir Isaac Newton. It's like finding the blueprints for a rocket buried in a gardening manual. The sheer unlikelihood of it is what makes the story so compelling. To truly appreciate the magnitude of al-Baghdadi's genius, we must first understand the dominant scientific paradigm of his era, Aristotelian physics. For over a millennium, Aristotle's theories had held sway, shaping the intellectual understanding of the physical world. His core belief regarding motion was deceptively simple. For any object to maintain continuous motion, a continuous force was absolutely required. Remove the force and the object stopped. Aristotle reasoned that if you threw a spear, the air pushed aside by the spear's tip would then swirl around to the back of the spear, continuously propelling it forward. In his view, there was no inherent tendency for an object to keep moving without an external push.
But al-Baghdadi, with a mind unbound by tradition, saw a critical flaw in this reasoning. He dared to propose something truly revolutionary, an idea that directly contradicted over 1,000 years of established thought. He asserted that a body maintains its state of motion or rest unless acted upon by an external force. He argued that when a force is applied, it doesn't just create motion, it imparts an impressed force or an internal tendency, what he called male, into the body itself. And this male or tendency persists even after the original external force is removed.
This concept that a body has an inherent resistance to changes in its state of motion is what we now universally recognize as inertia. Al-Baghdadi was articulating a fundamental principle of what would become Newton's first law of motion, centuries ahead of his time. He was essentially describing the impetus that keeps an object moving, a conceptual bridge that would later be vital for the scientific revolution. But al-Baghdadi's insights didn't stop there. He wasn't just observing, he was quantifying in his mind, exploring the mechanics behind these tendencies. He recognized that if multiple forces acted on a single body, they wouldn't simply cancel each other out or cause chaotic, unpredictable movement. Instead, he proposed that the ultimate resultant velocity of the body would be the direct outcome of a summation of these various forces. In his own remarkably prescient words, which resonate powerfully across the centuries, al-Baghdadi described how the speed of a body is produced by the sum of its internal and external forces. This isn't just an observation, it's a profound conceptual leap. He understood that the total influence of all acting forces determined the overall change in motion. This brings us to another astonishing parallel. Al-Baghdadi articulated that continuous force applied over time leads to continuous acceleration. As long as a force is applied, the male inside the object accumulates, causing the object to continuously increase its speed. He proposed a direct relationship between the applied force and the change in an object's velocity over time. This idea that force is proportional to the change in motion, or acceleration, is the very bedrock of Newton's second law of motion, F equals ma. Al-Baghdadi, in his extensive philosophical treatise, was outlining the principles of classical mechanics that would later be formalized as foundational laws of physics, a full 5 centuries before Newton penned his Principia Mathematica. This is a staggering realization that completely shifts our understanding of scientific history. But his challenges to Aristotelian physics didn't stop at terrestrial motion. He also tackled the perplexing problem of projectile motion, another area where Aristotle's explanations were increasingly strained by observation. Aristotle had maintained that a thrown object, like an arrow or a stone, was kept in motion by the air it displaced, which then swirled around to the back and continuously pushed it forward. Al-Baghdadi sharply criticized this. He argued, far more intuitively and accurately, that when an object is thrown, the projector, the hand or bowstring, imparts an instantaneous power, a male, or what later European scholars would call impetus, into the projectile itself. This internal male is what drives the projectile forward, and it only gradually diminishes due to external resistance, like the air. This wasn't merely a subtle modification, it was a fundamental shift in understanding.
Al-Baghdadi was proposing an internal cause for sustained motion rather than a continuous external one. This concept of an initial impetus that persists was a critical development, moving away from the need for a continuous external mover and setting the stage for the principle of inertia. His work provided a robust observational critique of Aristotelian physics that pointed directly towards the principles that would eventually form the bedrock of modern scientific understanding. He wasn't just speculating, he was meticulously dissecting the accepted wisdom of his time and replacing it with something empirically sound and conceptually brilliant. This depth of understanding, these incredibly advanced conceptualizations of motion, force, and causality, were not isolated flashes of insight. They represent a coherent, observational approach to physics that directly challenged and began to dismantle the Aristotelian worldview that had dominated for so long. It was the genesis of ideas that would ultimately lead to a profound scientific paradigm shift, yet it largely took place far from the Western academic institutions that would later claim these discoveries as their own unique intellectual birthright. Isn't it truly astounding to fully grasp that these incredibly fundamental ideas, the very bedrock of what we consider modern physics, essential to understanding everything from a falling apple to a spacecraft orbiting Earth, were not only conceived, but also articulated with remarkable clarity in the 12th century? This isn't just a historical footnote. It challenges the very fabric of our established scientific timelines and opens up incredible, even unsettling questions about the true flow of knowledge across civilizations and how much we still don't know about our own intellectual heritage. If you're finding this deep dive into forgotten scientific history as absolutely captivating and mind-expanding as we are, please don't just watch. Take a moment to hit that like button right now. Share this video with anyone who loves history, science, or a good mystery. And most importantly, subscribe to Al-Qisas Chronicles and ring that notification bell. Your incredible support is what fuels our mission to unearth and share more groundbreaking, untold stories like Al-Baghdadi's, bringing these vital insights to a wider global audience. Every like, share, and subscription makes a huge difference. Now, let's confront the perplexing, perhaps even infuriating question. Why did such revolutionary, groundbreaking work remain virtually hidden for so many centuries? The central and perhaps most frustrating mystery surrounding al-Baghdadi's brilliance remains. If his ideas were so profoundly revolutionary, anticipating the cornerstones of modern physics by half a millennium, why didn't they immediately ignite a sweeping scientific revolution across the Islamic world? And why did they subsequently gather dust in obscurity for centuries, completely missed by European scholars, until a painstaking rediscovery in the modern era? The answers, as with many grand historical questions, are not simple. They are complex, multifaceted, and deeply interwoven with linguistic barriers, shifting intellectual trends, political upheavals, and the very delicate nature of knowledge transmission itself. Firstly, the formidable linguistic barrier played a significant role. Al-Baghdadi composed his towering intellectual achievements entirely in Arabic. While Arabic was the lingua franca of scholarship across the vast Islamic world, it remained largely inaccessible to European scholars during the crucial periods of the Renaissance and early scientific revolution. Key texts that bridged Eastern and Western thought were translated, but al-Baghdadi's sprawling philosophical treatise was simply not among them, nor was its scientific content recognized as distinct enough for standalone translation. To compound this, his brilliance was encased not in a concise physics textbook, but meticulously woven into a dense, multi-volume philosophical work. His revolutionary physical theories were embedded within much broader discussions of metaphysics, theology, and epistemology, the nature of knowledge itself.
This made them incredibly difficult to extract and isolate for anyone primarily focused on pure mechanics, further obscuring their groundbreaking scientific novelty.
Secondly, we must acknowledge the seismic geopolitical and intellectual shifts that occurred. As the Islamic Golden Age, a period of unparalleled innovation and intellectual flourishing, began its slow and painful decline, exacerbated by both internal stagnation and external pressures like the Mongol invasions, the centers of scientific gravity began to inexorably shift. Simultaneously, Europe was awakening from its own dark ages, entering the vibrant period of the Renaissance, followed swiftly by the scientific revolution. By the time of Galileo and Newton, European scholars, though building upon foundations partly laid by Islamic predecessors, were increasingly operating within their own evolving intellectual framework, often unaware of the sophisticated critiques of Aristotle that had previously flourished in the Islamic world. Imagine the monumental, almost impossible task to discover a few pages of advanced physics embedded deep within a multi-volume philosophical work, written in a different, largely untranslated language, emanating from a civilization whose recent scientific contributions were increasingly overlooked by the rapidly ascendant powers of the West. It was, quite simply, a perfect storm for a scientific revolution to be, if not actively suppressed, then certainly eclipsed and rendered invisible by the currents of history. This isn't an attempt to diminish in any way the truly monumental and independent achievements of towering figures like Galileo Galilei or Sir Isaac Newton. Their discoveries were paradigm-shifting and undeniably foundational to modern science. Rather, the story of al-Baghdadi compels us to embrace a far richer, more nuanced, and deeply interconnected lineage of human intellectual endeavor. It serves as a powerful, even poignant reminder that scientific truth is often a journey of discovery, periods of quiet incubation, moments of loss, and eventual, triumphant rediscovery, with knowledge flowing across cultures and eras in unpredictable, often circuitous ways. It urges us to view history not as a series of isolated breakthroughs, but as a continuous, collaborative human project.
In recent decades, thanks to the tireless and meticulous dedication of pioneering historians of science, figures like Shlomo Pines, Abdelhamid Ibn Sabra, and many others who have devoted their lives to unlocking the treasures of Arabic scientific literature, al-Baghdadi's name has finally begun to resurface. These scholars have painstakingly translated, analyzed, and contextualized his groundbreaking work, allowing his extraordinary foresight to finally shine. They have pieced together the puzzle, revealing how his conceptualizations of male, force, and acceleration were remarkably sophisticated, offering a distinct and advanced critique of Aristotelian dynamics. Al-Baghdadi's story serves as far more than just an academic curiosity. It is a profound, indeed vital reminder that true genius is never confined by geographical borders, religious affiliations, or the specific epoch in which it emerges. It's a powerful testament to the enduring human spirit of inquiry, a spirit that transcends all artificial boundaries and connects us all through our shared quest for understanding. His documented contributions fundamentally alter our perception of the linear evolution of scientific thought, demonstrably pushing back the origins of classical mechanics further into history than commonly acknowledged. This incredible rediscovery implores us, as a global community, to look beyond narrow, often Eurocentric historical narratives. It challenges us to embrace a far more inclusive and ultimately truthful history of science, recognizing the countless brilliant minds from every corner of the world who, through their unique insights and rigorous investigations, have profoundly shaped our collective understanding of the cosmos and our place within it.
His legacy therefore extends beyond the realm of mere physics. It's a compelling narrative about the universal human drive to understand, to question, and to fearlessly push the boundaries of knowledge, no matter how intimidating or deeply entrenched the established wisdom may seem. It's a call to intellectual humility and global appreciation. The incredible story of Abu al-Barakat al-Baghdadi is ultimately a magnificent reminder that history is never static. It is a dynamic, living, breathing narrative, constantly being enriched, challenged, and lovingly reevaluated by every new discovery. His once buried insights are now resurfacing, not only enriching our understanding of science, but also compelling us to embrace the true global heritage of human intellectual endeavor. Let al-Baghdadi's extraordinary journey inspire us all to cultivate an insatiable curiosity, to never accept narratives without diligent scrutiny, and to always seek knowledge, even in the most unexpected and seemingly forgotten of places. Because in doing so, we might just unearth the next great hidden truth, waiting to be rediscovered by an open mind. If al-Baghdadi's profound story resonated deeply within you, please make sure to like this video, share it widely with your friends, family, and anyone curious about history or science. And most importantly, subscribe to Al-Qasas Chronicles right now and hit that notification bell. Your invaluable engagement is what empowers us to continue uncovering and sharing these vital, often untold narratives with a global audience.